Dell 32-inch 4K UHD monitor promises studio-grade 4K clarity, pro-level color accuracy, and one-cable USB-C simplicity that turns your desk into a clean productivity beast. Either we have finally reached affordable creator heaven, or this is just another piece of expensive confusion waiting to disappoint you. On paper, it sounds crazy good. 32-inch 3840 by 2160 resolution, IPS panel, HDR support, built-in speakers, USB-C with charging, and a sleek Dell design that is supposed to be easy on the eyes for all-day work. But here's the thing. Spec sheets in real life are not the same story. I ran this Dell 32-inch 4K on my main desk for a solid 30 days with a MacBook, a Windows editing rig, and a PlayStation. I've put the direct link to check current pricing in the description, but before you click anything, let me show you what I discovered after 30 days of testing. Now, what does this monitor actually claim to do? Dell markets their 32-inch 4K UHD as the do-it-all screen for creators, office warriors, and casual gamers. The promises look something like this. One crystal-sharp 4K for productivity, so you can have multiple apps open without things turning into tiny, unreadable ants. 2 factory-calibrated color with around 99% sRGB and up to roughly 95% DCI-P3 for photo and video work. 3 HDR support and fast response times that they say are good enough for gaming. 4 USB-C connectivity with power delivery and a built-in hub so one cable rules your entire setup. Sounds perfect, right? But here's where things get interesting. Reality check. They claim you get razor-sharp 4K productivity. What you actually get is a mix of wow and what on earth depending on how you use it. At 32 inches, 4K looks fantastic for photos, text, and spreadsheets, but only if you use the right scaling. At 100% scaling in Windows, text is tiny. At 150% things look great. But now you have about the same usable space as a good 27-inch QHD monitor. On macOS, running it at a scaled 3008 by 1692 or 2560 by 1440 equivalent looks cleaner, but you are not really using the full 4K detail anymore. So yes, it is sharp, but the actual productivity gain over a cheaper 27-inch QHD is not as huge as the marketing suggests. Let's be real here. They claim pro-level color for creators. Reality. It is good, but not out-of-the-box perfect. My unit covered essentially 99% of sRGB and around the mid-90s of DCI-P3, which is solid for video editing and Lightroom work. But out of the box it was too cool and a bit oversaturated. After calibration, it dialed in nicely with a delta E around 1 to 2 for most colors, which is excellent. The catch? Uniformity. The center of the screen looked spot on, but the top left corner was slightly dimmer and had a bit of a warm shift. You probably won't notice it in everyday use, but if you do print work or rely on super consistent color across the entire panel, that's a limitation the product page does not exactly shout about. They claim HDR support. Here's where it gets mathematically impossible for this to be true HDR. Most Dell 32-inch 4K IPS models peak around 350 to maybe 400 nits with a standard 1000 to 1 contrast ratio and no real local dimming. That means when you flip HDR on in Windows or on a console, you get slightly brighter highlights, but blacks stay gray and the image can actually look washed out. Real HDR needs way higher brightness and proper dimming zones. So yes, it accepts an HDR signal, but calling this a cinematic HDR experience is like calling instant noodles gourmet. It is not lying, but it is definitely stretching reality. They imply it is good for gaming with quick response times. What you actually get is perfectly fine for casual and story games, but not even close to a competitive display. Most of these Dell 32-inch 4Ks are 60Hz panels with an advertised 4ms or 5ms gray to gray. In practice, Motion is okay, but you will see smearing in dark scenes, and you are locked to 60 frames per second on PC and 4K 60 on consoles. No high refresh, no serious variable refresh rate support on most variants. If you are into esports or fast shooters, this is tech roulette. You paid 4K money and got office monitor motion. The big lifestyle claim is the USB-C single cable dream. Plug in your laptop, get video, data, and up to around 65 to 90 watts of charging. When it works, it is criminally convenient. But I dug through Amazon reviews and multiple investigation sites and saw a pattern. Some users report random USB-C disconnects, flicker when waking from sleep, or the hub dropping attached drives. On my setup, my MacBook sometimes refused to wake the display unless I unplugged and replugged the cable. That is not one cable magic, that's one cable frustration. Here's where the plot twist comes in. Not every Dell 32-inch 4K on Amazon is the same exact model. Some listings mix flat IPS and curved VA panels, older and newer revisions, and all the reviews get mashed together. So you might be reading a 5-star review about a curved gaming variant while you are actually buying a more business-focused one. That's not switching, that's expensive confusion. Picture quality. This is the strongest part. At normal viewing distance, 4K on 32 inches looks crisp. Colors pop nicely after a quick calibration, and the matte coating keeps reflections under control without turning everything into a grainy mess. Measured brightness lands in that mid-300 nits zone, totally fine for indoor use, and the contrast is typical IPS at around 1000 to 1. Dark room movies will look a bit gray in the blacks, and yes, there is the usual IPS glow in the corners, especially if you view it off-axis. Gaming performance. For chill gaming it is great. Big screen, sharp image, and low enough input lag that single-player titles feel responsive. But again, locked to 60 Hz. If you are coming from a 144 Hz 1440p monitor, this will feel like going backwards in motion smoothness, even though the resolution is higher. No serious VRR, and some models show mild ghosting and darker transitions even on the fast response mode. Connectivity and hub. You usually get HDMI, DisplayPort, USB-C, and a small USB hub. The USB-C power delivery is a game changer if your laptop charges under about 90 watts. The hub is mostly USB 3, but nothing crazy fast for heavy external drives. Here's what nobody tells you. If you chain too many devices through the monitor, you can run into bandwidth limits and random disconnects. Also, some owners mention that firmware updates from Dell are needed to fix flicker and sleep issues, but those are not exactly front and center on the product page. Build quality and ergonomics, classic Dell. Solid stand, height and tilt adjustment, relatively thin bezels. It feels premium enough, but it eats a lot of desk depth, especially the curved variants some listings are tied to. The built-in speakers technically exist, but they sound thin and boxy. Great for notification pings, bad for movies or editing audio. What the marketing does not mention is that at this price point, those speakers are basically there, so the spec sheet looks better. Verdict time. I would call this a buy with caution, not an automatic slam dunk. If you are a productivity-focused user or a creator who wants a big, sharp, color-capable 4K screen for photo and video work, and you can snag this Dell 32-inch 4K around the $350 to $450 mark on sale, it is a solid value. You get strong color coverage, clean 4K detail, and a genuinely useful USB-C hub when it behaves. But if you are a competitive gamer, or you want real HDR, or you are paying close to the original $600+ list price, skip this and look at a 144 Hz 1440p panel or a true HDR display instead. In other words, know exactly what problem you are solving before throwing money at this thing. Stay savage out there. If this review saved you from wasting money or helped you find something actually worth buying, I've put the link to check current pricing and read more reviews in the description. And hey, if you do decide to buy through my link, it helps fund these investigations without costing you extra. Drop a comment if you want to see this Dell go head-to-head with something like the LG 32-inch 4K or the Gigabyte M32U. Hit like if this helped. And subscribe so you do not miss the next deep dive into the weird world of Amazon tech. This is your friendly neighborhood monitor skeptic, signing off.